The sooner you start failing, the better your life will be. And believe it or not, 2 minutes today is 99% more likely to end up being 1 hour next year than complete avoidance. You have to recognize that it's negative emotions that are holding you back. Hello, my name's Daniel, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about failure. I wanted to talk about how most people stray from failure. Very, very few people actually embrace failure, and how failure can be used as a tool rather than something that you run away from and you're afraid. Basically, the main evidence that I have to support why you should embrace failure is because when I think back to my biggest regrets, the worst decisions I've ever made, emotionally based decisions, it's always because I'm trying to run away from something and I'm trying to avoid failure. Perhaps avoid failure because I won't be loved if I don't succeed. Because unfortunately, I have grown up with that kind of a mindset. So, given that fact that I grew up in a household where performance was everything and you were shown support and love based on performance, I've grown to have a very interesting relationship with failure, and not a good one, for many years. Basically, avoiding failure has led me to regret, feeling behind, all of this unhealthy type of stuff that I hear other people say, and I tell them that it's basically just their ego. Our ego is in control when it comes to not wanting to fail. Our ego wants to stay preserved and be exactly where it is. And we do that by not challenging ourselves. So the reason I'm making this video is because I just took an interview. And let's just say the challenge was far greater than what I personally believe I'm capable of. I went through the whole range of emotions for how I felt during that interview. And let me tell you, there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of like, fuck, why am I in this field? Why am I doing this? I fucking hate this. But if you take a step back, that's an emotional response. That's not actually what you're capable of. And there's something very interesting in people that isn't found in the ego. People have intrinsic value, which factors in their potential, whereas ego is your identity. It's where you believe that you are. These two things are very different because your ego will hold you back from reaching your potential. The follow-up to this is, after feeling like an absolute failure and like I should quit and all this fucked up shit, I was able to take a step back because there are certain aspects of my life where I do embrace failure and I don't just give up the second that some negative emotion hits me in. Basically, I'm not a pussy in certain areas, and I'm a pussy in other areas. Specifically, the stuff I'm insecure about, I'm a massive pussy, and the stuff that I'm okay with failing, I tend to do well in. So basically, embracing failure has accelerated specific areas of my growth beyond belief, like to the point that I can't believe I haven't started doing this stuff sooner. It's given me confidence. It's allowed me to operate in the universe, the objective universe, and not just in my head according to my ego, my identity, and who I believe I am. I'm making this video because I just wanted to say, the sooner you start failing, the better your life will be. And believe it or not, 2 minutes today is 99% more likely to end up being 1 hour next year than complete avoidance. You have to recognize that it's negative emotions that are holding you back. Perhaps you're identifying with your ego, perhaps you're identifying with the negative emotions and thus you're avoiding them because you don't want to feel those things, but they're just feelings. They eventually go away, especially after the challenge is over. It's basically your brain responding to the stimulus that you're giving it. Most of the time, it's the case that you're not going to have a linear growth. It's going to be more like uptrend, downtrend, uptrend, downtrend, uptrend, downtrend. So recognize that your positive emotions and your reinforcement is going to be highest at the peak of that uptrend, and then your negative emotions are going to be the highest when you pull back. basically when you reach your new low, right? It's very important to control your mind when it comes to failure, because your mind is going to convince you, and I don't even say try, it is going to convince you to stop. There's a certain point where you must sit down and say to yourself, I accept how brutal, how awful, how painful these pull-ups holding might be, but I'm going to do it anyways. And then once you go into the problem with that kind of a mindset, you're able to work through the problem rather than identifying with the thoughts that pop up. Avoid failure if you want to live a terrible life. Embrace failure if you want to be better than everybody you know. That's all I have to say.